Hello, my friend. Welcome to the show. This is Arianna. It's so wonderful to have you here with me today. Today's topic is all about introverts and extroverts and how we often approach goal setting differently because there's a distinct personality difference between introverts and extroverts, and the way that we set goals changes the outcome. So it changes the way we achieve them. And by way, I mean whether we're burnt out, stressed out, exhausted by the time we achieve them, and or whether we achieve them at all. And so in today's episode, I really want to talk about those differences and give you a couple of resources to help you to set goals in a way that feels really natural and beautiful for you and your individual style. What's important to note as well here is that you're not either an extrovert or an introvert. There is something called an ambivert, which is someone who's a little bit of both, mostly half-half. Half of your traits are extroverted and half of your traits are introverted. And within that scale, you can find yourself 80% more introverted than extroverted or vice versa. So it's important to know that you're not one or the other, and it's not a label that you give yourself to stop yourself from achieving the things that you want to or doing the things that you want to do in the way you want to do them. But this is my attempt to really help you see that there are so many different ways to achieve a specific goal, and that the only way that's the right way is the way it feels good for you. So as we know, introverts and extroverts often approach goal setting quite differently. This is the natural way that they would approach goal setting before someone told them what to do or how to do it. And naturally, we rely on our distinct personality traits and preferences before we do anything. And when we start to understand these differences, we start to notice that creating a goal strategy in this case that works for you will lead to higher levels of success and higher success rates. So introverts typically prefer a more reflective, methodical approach. We value deep focus and solitary planning sessions. But in contrast to that, extroverts often thrive in dynamic, collaborative environments, drawing energy from group brainstorming and public accountability. You'll see this often on social media where there'll be people who are going for a goal, for example, and they'll share their goal on social media, and then they'll share everything that they're doing on the way to achieving the goal. They'll share their ups, their downs, and everything in between. And that's generally someone who's coming from a more extroverted nature, naturally, whereas an introvert, by her natural tendency, is more likely to set a goal and then head down, bum up, work in some deep focus sessions to achieve the goal, and just goes about doing it without necessarily bringing in collaborative opportunities or partners. The moment you can recognize which one of these two ways of setting goals and achieving them works for you best, the moment you can recognize those innate tendencies, then you can tailor your goal setting process to align with your natural strengths. And of course, that will lead to more effective and sustainable progress towards your ambitions. Now, ambitious introverts, these are the people that I work with the most in my coaching practice. They can greatly benefit from this understanding, and they often do, because mainstream goal setting advice caters generally to extroverted tendencies, which often leave introverts feeling overwhelmed or out of sync with their natural preferences. So by acknowledging and embracing your introverted traits, you can develop a personalized strategy and approach that leverages your strengths. For instance, you could use tools like the Quiet Power Planner, which you can download for free in the show notes below. It's something that I put together that really does draw on every single piece that an introverted leader needs in order to set goals that are structured and introspective in nature. And I have found myself that when I use this particular way of setting goals, I achieve my goals in a way that just feels so much more spacious and so much more aligned with who I am as a person. So all of those details are in the show notes below. But when you use something like that, and it doesn't have to be that, but something like this planner, you can create a structured, introspective environment that actually supports deep thinking and sustained focus. Now, this personalized approach not only enhances productivity, but it also ensures that your goals are aligned with your true values and aspirations. And so once you implement a goal setting strategy that actually resonates with your introverted nature, you can expect to achieve significant improvements in both your personal and professional life. You'll actually find that your goals become more achievable, they become more meaningful because they're set in a way that respects your need for solitude and contemplation, which, if you're an ambitious introvert, you need in order to feel really good along the journey of completing and achieving your goal. Now, this alignment leads to increased motivation. It leads to a greater sense of fulfillment as you make steady, consistent progress. And additionally, by working in harmony with your natural tendencies, you reduce the risk of burnout and overwhelm, which creates a sustainable path to success that supports your overall well-being. Now, let's take a look at the difference between how extroverts and introverts best approach goal setting. You ready? For starters, there is the difference between reflection versus brainstorming. Now, introverts prefer to reflect and think deeply about their goals. They often engage in solitary activities like journaling or meditation so that they can gain clarity, whereas extroverts tend to brainstorm and discuss their goals with others. They gain energy and ideas from social interactions. Now, another thing that is worth noting is that introverts and extroverts are different when it comes to how detail-oriented they are or how big picture they are. So introverts actually focus on the details and the step-by-step processes that need to happen in order for them to achieve their goals. They value thorough planning and clear strategies, whereas extroverts, they might focus more on the overall vision and then they get excited about the end result and then they jump into action super quickly. This is a really good example of how you're not one or the other. I would consider myself 80% introvert, but this little piece here that I just mentioned is my 20% extrovert. I'm a big picture strategic thinker. So even though I am an introvert by 80% of my natural tendencies, this little piece is really important for me to recognize. I don't need to be detail oriented and focus more on the details in order for me to be more introverted and therefore achieve my goals more successfully. This is really about me leaning into the fact that, okay, so I have this introverted tendency. I do like to think about my goals. I do like to meditate on them. I like to create space so that I can feel into it, whether it's the right thing for me or the wrong thing for me. But once I've become really clear about it, I do like to think big picture and then I get straight into it. But I actually feel it's the time that I've given myself through the planning and the meditative practices that I've done to become clear on what I want to do. I feel like it's that space that I've created that allows me to go, head first into taking action towards the goals that I've set for myself. The third thing I want to talk about is this internal versus external, and it's internal motivation versus external validation. Now, introverts typically set goals that align with their internal values and personal fulfillment. They seek intrinsic rewards and personal growth, whereas extroverts often set goals that may involve external validation or recognition, which draws motivation from the approval and encouragement of others. This is really important when it comes to understanding your role as a leader, whether that be in an organization, you've in a managerial role, or you run your own business. Extroverts and introverts actually achieve or feel like they've achieved a goal very differently. So introverts will feel much more aligned if their goal is aligned with their internal values and what they perceive to be their personal fulfillment. So if they see that the goal aligned with how they're going to grow as a person, they'll probably enjoy it more because of the intrinsic reward system that's been set up for this particular person. Whereas an extrovert loves to be celebrated, loves to be validated, loves to be recognized, and loves the encouragement of others. So getting to know your team members, the people that work with you, the people that work for you is really important because you can really help them to set goals and achieve them in a way that feels so good to them, knowing how do they love to not only set their goals, but how do they love to be celebrated? Is it more of a celebration for them to know that they're doing something that's super aligned with their heart's desires? Or is it more of a motivation for them to know that they are going to get approval or encouragement from others for the work that they're doing? And there's no right and wrong answer here. It's not better if you're doing something that's aligned with your heart's desires versus seeking encouragement from others. It's all perfect. It's just knowing what you prefer and then also being quite vocal with others about it if you do prefer one or the other, so that your leaders and the people that work with you know exactly how to support you as you go about goal setting. The fourth thing I want to talk to you about is solo versus collaborative efforts. Now, you guessed it, introverts prefer to work independently on their goals. They find productivity and creativity in solitude, whereas extroverts, they thrive in collaborative environments and they often seek team efforts and group activities to achieve their goals. I don't even have to say anything about that. You get what I'm saying, right? Introverts are normally the ones that are sitting quietly on their own, creatively pursuing their dreams. And extroverts are usually in big teams. They love the group activities. They love the team building things. And so they're much more likely to create those environments for themselves in order to achieve their goals. Number 5 is the structured versus flexible approach. Now, introverts tend to favor a structured and organized approach to goal setting with clear timelines and milestones, whereas extroverts might adopt a more flexible and adaptable approach, ready to pivot and change course as they go. Understanding these differences can help tailor goal setting strategies to better suit your individual preferences, enhancing the motivation and the likelihood of actually achieving the success. I think it's really important that you get to know not only your own tendencies, but the tendencies of those who you work with. And remember, it's never just a set and forget kind of thing. It's a conversation that needs to be had again and again and again, so that you're all on the same page and that you're supporting each other in a way that feels so incredibly aligned with what it is that you're trying to achieve. So I hope that that helps you. I hope that you've gained some insight into your own personal preferences here. Perhaps you have noticed that you've got more of the extroverted tendencies. You like to be celebrated. You like working in collaborative environments. And maybe you've recognized that it's okay to be someone who wants to work in solitude, who wants to put their phone on Do Not Disturb and have 5 hours of creative time at least once a week, where you can get into deep focus work and create from there. One of the things that I've noticed is that because we live in an extroverted world, meaning, a lot of people on social media and social outlets are promoting the extroverted way of living, because social media is predominantly run by extroverts, right? Or introverts who are trying to be extroverts, or introverts who have at least 80% of their extroverted ways being seen and noticed and valued and recognized via social media channels. But a lot of us watch that and we think that we should be like that. And the reality is that it's not necessary. You can do incredible work in the world as an introvert. In fact, you do not need to be anything other than who you are. And you do not need to try and be like someone that you see on social media. You do not need to do anything other than what you know best in order to be successful. And yes, there may be times where you have to push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone. You may need a little bit of guidance. You may need a bit of accountability to do the things that feel really challenging and unnatural for you. But what's really important as an introvert is that you give yourself some space and time, either before those tasks and most certainly after those tasks. I call them buffer periods of time, where if I'm asked to go and do a talk, or I'm asked to do something that's a little bit more extroverted in nature, that I either create a little bit of space for myself before the event, and then most certainly create some space for myself after the event, so that I can decompress and recalibrate and then get back to work in my own introverted style. So I hope that this is helpful. Please reach out to me if you've got any questions. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if you feel more introverted or extroverted. There are many tests that you can do. I'll drop the Myers-Briggs test. It's a personality profile that you can do, which actually gives you a well-rounded idea if you're more introverted or extroverted. And there's a whole host of other profiles that come with doing one of these tests. So it doesn't just tell you if you are introverted or extroverted. It gives you so many other different profiles that you can work with and to support yourself as you work towards more and more of a leadership role in your life. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was helpful, and I will be with you in the next episode. Bye for now.